Did you know that 93% of communication is nonverbal, yet most people focus only on what they say in a debate? That means winning an argument isn't just about having the best facts. It's about how you present them. Whether you're debating a friend, a coworker, or a stranger on the internet, knowing how to argue effectively can give you a serious advantage. Think about it. How often have you been in an argument where you knew you were right, but the other person just wouldn't see it? Frustrating, right? That's because debates are rarely won with logic alone. You need strategy, confidence, and persuasion skills to get your point across effectively. So let's dive into 10 genius debate tips that will help you outsmart anyone in an argument. Tip number 1. Stay calm, stay confident. Most people think the louder they get, the more convincing they sound. But in reality, calmness equals control. The moment you lose your cool, you lose credibility. Imagine two people arguing. One is speaking in a composed, level tone, while the other is raising their voice and getting frustrated. Who looks like they're in control? The key is to stay composed no matter what. Take deep breaths, slow down your speech, and respond with poise and confidence. This will make your argument sound more rational, making people more likely to side with you. The calmer you are, the more your opponent's emotional outbursts will work against them. Tip number 2. Use the Steelman technique. Instead of attacking your opponent's argument, strengthen it first. This is called Steelmanning, and it's one of the smartest ways to win debates. Here's how it works. 1. Summarize their argument in the best possible way, even better than they did. 2. Acknowledge any valid points they made. 3. Then, refute it with your own stronger argument. For example, if someone says, "Social media helps people stay connected," you could reply, "That's a great point." Social media does help people stay connected, especially across long distances. But studies also show that excessive social media use is linked to increased loneliness and anxiety. So while it has benefits, the negative effects can't be ignored. Now, instead of outright rejecting their argument, you've shown understanding and respect, making your counterpoint even stronger. Tip number 3. Ask strategic questions. One of the most powerful ways to win an argument is by getting the other person to contradict themselves. And the best way to do that? Ask the right questions. For example, if someone says, "All politicians are corrupt," ask, "So you're saying there's not a single honest politician in history?" If they claim, "Money can't buy happiness," respond with, "Then why do wealthier countries have higher happiness rates?" By making them clarify or defend their point further, you're forcing them to think critically, which often exposes flaws in their logic. Plus, people are more likely to change their minds when they feel like they arrived at the conclusion themselves, rather than being told they're wrong. Tip number 4. The power of pausing. Want to make someone uncomfortable in an argument? Just pause. Silence is a psychological weapon. When you pause after someone makes a weak point, they'll often feel pressured to fill the silence, which can lead them to backtrack, over-explain, or contradict themselves. Try this. The next time someone gives a weak argument, pause for 3 to 5 seconds while maintaining eye contact. That awkward silence will do more damage to their confidence than any counterpoint you could throw at them. Tip number 5. Identify logical fallacies. Most arguments are filled with logical fallacies, errors in reasoning that make an argument invalid. If you can spot them and call them out, you instantly gain the upper hand. Here are some of the most common ones. Strawman. Misrepresenting your opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. Ad hominem. Attacking the person instead of their argument. False dilemma. Presenting only 2 choices when more exist. Slippery slope. Arguing that one small event will lead to a major catastrophe. For example, if someone says, "If we allow free healthcare, next thing you know, the government will control everything in our lives," you can calmly respond, "That's a slippery slope fallacy. Just because one policy changes doesn't mean everything else will follow." By pointing out their faulty reasoning, you weaken their argument and make yourself look more logical. Tip number 6. Master the yes and technique. Rather than rejecting someone's argument outright, use the yes and technique to subtly redirect the conversation. For instance, if someone says, "Technology is making people lazy," instead of saying, "No, it's not," you could respond with, "Yes." And it's also allowing people to work more efficiently than ever before. This approach makes the conversation feel more cooperative rather than confrontational, making it easier to guide the discussion in your favor. Tip number 7. Use storytelling to your advantage. Facts and data are great, but people connect with stories. If you can illustrate your point with a compelling story, your argument becomes more relatable and persuasive. For example, instead of saying, "Exercise improves mental health," tell a story about someone who overcame anxiety through fitness. Suddenly, your argument has an emotional hook, making it harder to dismiss. Tip number 8. Control the frame of the argument. Whoever controls the frame of the debate controls the debate. This means shaping the conversation in a way that favors your argument. For example, instead of arguing whether a policy is good or bad, reframe it as, "Is this the most effective solution?" If someone claims something is unfair, ask, "How do you define fairness?" By setting the terms of the discussion, you steer the argument in your favor before they even realize it. Tip number 9. Appeal to their core values. People are more likely to agree with you if they feel their core values align with your argument. If someone values freedom, frame your point as promoting personal choice. If they value safety, emphasize how your argument protects people. This makes it much harder for them to reject your stance without going against their own principles. Tip number 10. Know when to walk away. Some arguments aren't worth winning. If someone refuses to have a rational discussion, walking away is the ultimate power move. If a debate is going in circles, confidently say, "I see we're not going to agree on this. Let's just leave it at that." By ending the conversation on your terms, you maintain control and avoid wasting your energy. Tip number 11. Leverage the power of silence. Silence is an underrated but powerful debate tool. When you pause for an extended moment after making a strong point, it forces your opponent and your audience to sit with the weight of your argument. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence and will rush to fill it, often exposing weak points in their reasoning or making emotional appeals instead of logical ones. Strategic silence also makes you appear more composed and in control, giving the impression that your argument is so solid it doesn't need excessive justification. Debating isn't just about proving a point. It's about guiding the conversation in a way that influences perception. The key is to combine logic with psychology, keeping your composure while subtly steering the discussion in your favor. By mastering techniques like strategic questioning, reframing, and even well-placed pauses, you create an environment where your opponent is constantly on the defensive. At the end of the day, a well-structured argument isn't just about having the right facts. It's about delivering them in a way that makes them impossible to ignore. Winning an argument isn't just about having the best facts. It's about strategy, persuasion, and knowing how to control the conversation. Use these 11 debate tips, and you'll outsmart anyone in a discussion, whether it's a heated debate or just a friendly disagreement. Which of these points resonate with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video meaningful, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more videos on personal growth and healing. And as always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.